Come on, Livingston, we're gonna go on and on and on. Together we can make it. We're gonna go on and on and on. Come on, Livingston.
Knocks it through. Mullen bursting into the box. Josh Mullen.
Together we can make it.
Mullen's ball across, it's turned in! It's Pittman who's got it! Livingston leads!
Road is long.
Can they get the ball back in? O'Brien.
Lead! And Livingston have the lead!
Man, you score.
If we march to
The full-time whistle blows and David Hayes celebrates! And the Livingston fans join in exultation.
come on, Livingston.
Livingston have the lead against Rangers, and they are certainly rising to a few occasions on their return to the top flight in Scotland.
Come on, Livingston. We're gonna go.
Hello and welcome back to Talk Livi, the podcast dedicated to everything Livingston Football Club and Scottish football. My name's June and today I'm joined by Bruni and Angus. Bruni, we'll start off with you. Been a wee while since you're on. How you doing, mate?
No, I'm good, mate. Very good. Thanks for asking. Obviously, we're recording this on Monday, so excited for the week of football ahead. Obviously, the last week of the season, but we'll get on to that. But yeah, we welcome Rangers on Wednesday, so I'm buzzing for that, to be honest with you.
And Angus, how you doing, mate? You're the new regular with me, it appears, because Bruni and Semple can't make it half the time these days.
Yeah, what can I say? I'm just super reliable, but yeah, doing well as well. Probably less enthusiastic as Callum is about these upcoming games, but yeah, we'll get onto that in a wee bit.
And you can listen to this episode and all our other episodes on your preferred podcast streaming site. We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify and YouTube, plus loads more. So just search for Talk Livi, follow us and subscribe if you can, so you won't miss another episode. So, as Bruni mentioned, there was no game at the weekend, but we'll look ahead to the Rangers visiting the Tony Macaroni Arena for our final home game of the season. We also have an exclusive interview with Livi's record appearance holder, Keaghan Jacobs. And finally, we'll finish up with a preview of our final game of the season as we travel to Perth to take on double chasing St Johnstone.
We welcome Steven Gerrard's Rangers to the Spaghetti Had this week in our final home game of the season. After securing their first ever top flight title, they also chase an unbeaten league campaign. Lads, how do you see this going?
Wow.
Well, first of all, I'm disappointed you didn't say Slippy G because that's what I wrote in the script. But I'm glad you pointed out it is their first ever top flight title. Thank you for that. I'm looking forward to it because I think it's the type of game that we tend to step up for a little bit. We do relish playing against the bigger sides and trying to frustrate and cause them issues. So, but I think, Rangers don't have any cup football to look forward to for the remainder of the season. So, their priority is going to be trying to see out the season unbeaten in the league. And I'm sure they'll be putting out almost as full strength a side as possible to try and achieve that. But as I say, it's the sort of, we've made it difficult for them at Livi already this season. It took a late goal to beat us in the last game, and we held them off really well at the start of the season, in my opinion. When we took a point against them, kept a clean sheet. So I'm a bit more confident after the performance against Aberdeen than I would have been previously. I think we didn't get the result we deserved against Aberdeen, and I think there's lots of positives though to take from that game. But we're going to need to be really switched on. It'll be interesting to see what sort of shape that Davy goes with, and if he maybe goes to a 3 at the back with wing backs, or the game at the start of the season it was a 4-2-3-1, but it almost worked out a 7 across the back at times when we were out of possession. So it'll be interesting to see what he does with that. But it's weird. I was saying this before starting recording, Angus. I'm more confident of taking something against Rangers than I am against St Johnstone next week, just because of the nature of how we tend to play against the bigger sides. But I'm sure it'll be an interesting one. But it's an opportunity for the players. As I say, 5th place is still in our hands. If we can match St Johnstone's result on Wednesday night and then go to McDermott Park. So there is still an incentive for the players there.
I'm the exact same as you, in terms of it's the games we always turn up for, isn't it? Not saying we've not turned up for games this season or whatever, but the last few been disappointing results. Albeit we played well second half against Hibs. We played, I thought, fairly well against Aberdeen. I listened to you guys last week speak about that, and it wasn't a 2-1 game. I don't think. I think a point would have been fair, but going into this one, it's a weird one. I'm quietly confident in a way, because I know that we can give them a game, we can cause them trouble. Like as you say, we're going for 5th, so there's a little bit of pressure on us in terms of being behind St Johnstone, and we need results, we need points or whatever. But all the pressure for me is on Rangers. That if they come to Livingston and don't win, it's Rangers' problem. Like we're not expected to get anything from this match. Sorry, and you're also just hoping that Celtic can do us a favour. I think it's Celtic are at home to St Johnstone. Doesn't really mean anything nowadays though, because Celtic haven't been great this season at all. So I'm not counting my chickens for that one. But it's just I'm looking forward to it. I think we'll put up a fight, and it'll be a close game if we can keep it tight first half an hour or whatever. Obviously we saw the game at Ibrox this season was probably the only one where the game was done after 50 minutes. They got the 2 early goals and that killed the game. But if we can keep it tight like we've done in the last 2 games at home, you never know. And I don't want to sound way too optimistic, because we could very well get beat. But it just is, as I say, the type of game that we get up for, and that we're the underdogs and nothing to lose type thing.
Yeah, I'm glad that you are being quite optimistic, because I'm going to dial it way down, because I'm really not looking forward to this game. And I think we could be on the end of a hammering here, in all honesty. I do get your kind of points about how we frustrated them at home earlier in the season, but I just don't see us getting anything from it. I think Rangers will be too much for us, even if we are fairly solid. I think they will cause us too many problems, like they did in that last game. I think we probably got a wee bit fortunate that it was only 1-0. There was a good couple of saves that Striek made to keep us into it. Morelos also had a couple that he absolutely blazed wide. I think with more kind of like opportunities and more kind of focus, they probably on that day could have made it 2 or 3. The main thing that kind of concerns me as well is, in those games, we very rarely threatened going forward as well. The first game, the 0-0, all we had was Craig Sibbald's halfway line effort that, to be fair, almost did trouble the goalkeeper. I'm really struggling to think of what we did in the last game as well. It's been a wee while, but for me, considering the kind of way that we've been playing, both defensively and attacking, it doesn't give me much hope. I know that we did play well against Aberdeen, but I think we were not going to have nearly as much time on the ball as we did against them. And that was one of my main gripes in the game against Aberdeen, was the fact that we were dilly-dallying on the ball. We weren't taking advantage of opportunities in that. And against Rangers, it's going to be even less likely to have that. But hopefully I'm wrong. Hopefully it is much closer than I think of that. But can't say I'm too overly optimistic about it. But obviously going into this game, you kind of mentioned it about a change of formation. Do you see us going to a back 5 in this one, and just kind of parking the bus a wee bit and then hoping to hit on the counter or play from set pieces?
As I say, it's a bit of a lottery, I think, with Davey sometimes, in terms of the shape. But he kind of, that's one thing I'll say to him, he kind of takes each game as it comes in terms of the shape of the team, and a lot of it kind of depends on the opposition as well. I think if I remember correctly, at Ibrox we started with 3 at the back, and we started getting exposed quite a bit, and we moved to a flat 4. As I say, first game of the season we played a back 4, and I think the last game at Livi was a back 4 as well. So I think it's more likely we're going to play with a 4 and almost double up in the wide areas. Whoever's playing out wide, be it Jet, be it Josh, be it Alan, whoever kind of plays out wide, they'll be doubling up with the fullbacks. I assume more than likely being Jacko and Nicky. But as I say, it'll be interesting to see what he does, if he maybe tries something a wee bit different. We don't know, but I'm sure Davey would have done his homework and he'll be looking at ways to try and stop Rangers, but hopefully try and exploit them. I think where you do get your joy with Rangers potentially is down in the full-back areas, because Barisic and Tavernier are so advanced the majority of the time. I think that's where your space is, and it might be the opportunity to play, almost gamble a little bit and play Jet out on that side, out wide, and try and expose those spaces, because he's looked terrific coming in off the right hand side recently. He's been probably he won our Player of the Month recently, and he has been the player, I think, the last month or two that's really shown, and he's started to look the real player that he is, and it's been coming off that right hand side. So it might almost be worth having a bit of a gamble and leaving Jet just hanging out there. It could force the likes of Barisic to have to play a bit deeper as well. If you do that, force him back a little bit. As I say,
we saw that from
it's
Hibs,
just an idea.
I think we saw that from Hibs. I think Boyle played fairly high up the pitch, and that stopped Barisic from coming forward. I think that's probably where the game's won and lost. And obviously, you'll need a lot of luck for us. You need a lot of luck to go our way. Obviously, they'll have the majority of the ball. They'll bombard the box and things, but it will be won and lost in those full-back areas, as you say. If we can stop their full-backs from getting forward, because they play wingers, they play like wingers at times, and they've got the sort of two inside number 10s, Kent and I don't know, whoever it is, Aribo, Hadji, whoever even Roof, they've got great strength and depth, and they sort of tuck inside, and that allows the wingers to come round. It's almost like a five going forward at times, as you've got those two number 10s, the Morelos, and then the two fullbacks. So that is a worry. But as you say, on the counter attack, you never know. And if we do push them high up the pitch and try and stop the fullbacks from coming forward, easier said than done. But no, that could be where the game's won and lost for me.
Would you say then that in terms of personnel, then we may be better off starting up with, some of our players who are, a wee bit speedier? Obviously, you're talking about how like the kind of like fullbacks are going to leave like space. In all honesty, if you have like a front three of essentially, Sybil, Jet, and maybe like Platnik, you've not really got an awful lot of speed there that's probably going to, target the defence and kind of harm them. Does likes of like Josh Milner that come back in, who will, make those kind of marauding runs and, try and get in behind instantly? Or I'm trying to think of other personnel that we've got really who's kind of fit, who could fit in there. But yeah, what would your thoughts be personnel wise then?
I mean, you put two and two together. If you're trying to play on the break a little bit, you probably want your pacier players there to try and cause a bit of damage. So that would lend to the likes of Josh and Alan Forrest coming into the side, maybe playing off Jet. As I say, it was just a punt talking about Jet playing out there and gambling on him. We know sometimes he's not one for the old tracking back, but that's where it might come into cause an issue with him just playing a little bit higher and almost forcing one of the fullbacks back. But as I say, it's a difficult one to predict, because Davey has been notorious since he's taken the job, and it's very rarely that he's started the same 11 back-to-back games. So it'll be interesting to see what he does. But in theory, you would maybe look at playing the likes of Josh and Alan because of their pace, and that will offer you, because we are likely going to be playing on the counter attack. Let's be honest.
I mean, I think it's incredibly hard to manage in terms of who we play in those areas, because as Ewan touched on there, sort of cat and mouse. You're looking to counter attack, but you're also needing boys that can defend and stop them from coming forward. But the one thing I will say, no matter who we play, no matter the formation, if it's a three at the back, if it's a four or whatever, I think we need three central midfielders on the park, because they'll dominate the midfield. I'm not saying they'll not dominate the midfield anyway, if it's 3 against 3, but Stephen Davis, you need somebody in his face. You cannot allow him time on the ball, because he will dictate the game. For me, he's, other than McGregor and probably Goldson, he's definitely been Rangers' best player this season. He totally dictates the game. Glenn Kamara as well, you need somebody in his face, because if Davis doesn't dictate the game, Kamara will do it. And then Aribo as well is a total danger for me. They've just got so many good players all over the park, which, again, I don't know why I'm so confident. Now I'm talking myself out of it, but you need. I think you need those three across the midfield. You need a Bartley, a Holt. If it's a Sibbald, Pittman, you need people in there that are going to be hard in the tackle. They're going to just work hard for 90 minutes and not give them an ounce of room in the middle of the pitch. And it's just, it's going to be difficult. It is going to be difficult.
Yeah, I think you've summed up perfectly well there, Callum. The midfield, they've just got so much talent and just so much like good passing ability in that in there. We are going to need a lot of kind of tenacity in that in there. Probably you're going to have to ask maybe Pitts to play maybe a wee bit deeper this game, having Holt to just keep busy and keep running about. It's an interesting one because then I don't want to see Sibbald on the left wing, but I feel like Davey will put him out there. Would you get more out of him through the centre and have that kind of energy, as somebody who will kind of chase back and forth? But you never know. Also, something I kind of wanted to bring up was, is Jack Hamilton able to play for us now? That is that the season's finished for Arbroath. Is he available for selection once again?
I don't think he will be. To be honest, I also don't think he would jump back into the team at this moment in time. But I'm not 100% sure what the situation is with that. But I assume he probably can't play.
It's just because obviously he's played for us already this season. I don't know if that would be wiped because of the fact he's went to play for another side. But again, if we're talking about options for up front, that would probably allow you to put Jet on that right wing if you did have that. He is probably the most kind of physical kind of striker who has a wee bit of pace about him as well. Maybe it wouldn't be a terrible option. And as well, if we're looking at him to be our one of our main forwards for the next season, couldn't hurt, right?
I agree. If he was available, then it would be worthwhile giving the run out. But I'm pretty certain he's probably not available for selection. I assume.
I'll tell you who's due a goal. A new signing that we haven't seen that much from. Anthony Stokes, not really turned up for me. Needs to get the finger out, if I'm being honest. But
he's taking his time to get used to the pitch, mate. He's taking his time. So we'll move on to predictions then. Bruni, we'll start off with you. What were you thinking for the game?
I'm going to say it really quickly so I don't sound deluded. 1-0 Livingston.
Mate, you can pause and rewind, you'll still sound deluded. I guess what you're thinking?
Is that double figures you've got written down there?
I mean, we'll be lucky if it's no.
I can't believe he's that confident we're going to put 10 past him. I don't think we've conceded 10 this season. Unbelievable.
I mean, we're 3-0 Rangers.
It's good to see Andy is still represented on the podcast when he's not here.
At least I've got some faith in me. 1-0 in about 10 years.
I predicted 2 draws at home this season against Rangers, and I was mightily close to another one last time. I'm going to predict another one. I'm going to predict a draw. I'm going to go, but I also don't see us scoring against them, so I'm going to go 0-0. I think we're going to keep them out again. I think it's going to be a similar job to earlier in the season. We were putting about 11 men behind the ball and putting the cardboard cutouts in between the sticks as well to just try and help out Max and goals. So, hopefully we do get a positive result and it sets up a thriller in Perth on the final day.
Imagine we end their invincible run, man. That's just happening. It just is.
This week on Talk Livi, we have Livingston's longest serving player and record appearance holder. It is the one, the only, Keaghan Jacobs. How are you doing, Keaghan?
Yeah, great. Thanks for having me.
It's good to have you on, mate. It's good to have you on. Now, it's obvious you've experienced quite a lot with the club, so we'll dive right into it. You came up through the youth set up at Livi. How was it you were spotted by the club?
It was actually one of my mates that was playing with Livi at the time. His dad came up to me after one of my boys club games and was like, would you be interested in coming to Livi for a trial? I was like, yeah, absolutely, and just started from there.
And it was Muirston you were at before, wasn't it?
Yeah, I was at Muirston Boys Club. had a great little boys club there. And then, like I said, got asked to come for a trial game and never looked back, basically.
It's worked out quite well, hasn't it?
How long were you at Murison for?
So I was there from basically when I moved from South Africa to here. So I moved when I was 9, and then picked up from Livi when I was 13.
And you also played a bit of cricket when you were younger as well. You played for West Lothian. Was there ever a chance that you might have gone down the cricket route rather than football?
Nah, football was always my biggest passion. I enjoyed cricket, but if I eventually had to choose, and there was only going to be one winner.
To be fair, cricket's a big thing in South Africa as well, isn't it? So
it is. That's why I was so into it. Cricket's massive over there, and you play it like when you're at school and stuff. So
you do a bit of batting, all rounding. What was your forte then?
Nah, a bit of an all rounder. I'm not sure about now, but back when I played, an all rounder.
So when you went to when you obviously joined Livingston, you was going to make your debut in the 4-0 Scottish Cup win over Alloa. You also got your first goal in that game and got man of the match as well. Did you imagine your debut turning out just as good as that?
No, absolutely not. Obviously, I got told about getting my debut during that week, and to be honest, I was just buzzing to get a game for the first team, but couldn't ever imagine it going as well as it did.
And you were 17 at the time when you made your debut, so did you have to get like a wee bottle of milk instead of the champagne for your man of the match award?
I'm not even gonna lie, I can't even remember what I actually got.
It couldn't have been that good if you can't remember.
I think it's just I've got a fucking memory.
But you would go on to make a handful of appearances the rest of that season and the following season after that. How did you find that step up from youth team football into the first team?
I at the time I found it quite a big step. The intensity, the quality was a lot better than what I was used to. Not because we had like bad players at youth level. They were like brilliant players, and I came through with a lot of good players that have gone on to much bigger things. But I suppose you're just taking that step up to the first team, and yeah, I don't think I quite expected it to be the jump it was.
Because there was quite a few of you kind of came up at that point, because I think there was a transfer embargo at the club, so the likes of yourself, Murray Davidson, Lee Griffiths all kind of came through roughly the same time. Do you reckon that allowed you guys to get that opportunity to come into the first team as well?
Yeah, maybe. Like I said, we've at the time we had a brilliant setup, and the players that came through the setup, I think we were lucky to have that amount of players with that much quality.
With that as well, like how were the older players with like kind of integrating you into that kind of system? Were they top class? Was there anybody who like stood out who would kind of maybe not necessarily take you under their wing, but helped you in many ways?
To be honest, that step up, the full first team were brilliant with me, helped me along, talked me through what I needed to do. Yeah, they made it a step a lot easier than I thought.
There was a few experienced guys, the likes of Lee Makel was about when you broke in, and current assistant manager as well, Liam Fox, playing a similar position to you. They must have been a big help to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, they'd been around for a while. They knew the game, and yeah, they gave me a lot of advice and encouragement in stepping up to that level. And
then in 2009, it was a pretty difficult year for the club. Obviously, financial issues hit, and we were demoted down to Division 3. When did it become apparent that there was a lot of issues behind the scenes with the Italians that shall not be named? I think they're banned on the podcast from being mentioned.
See, to be honest, it was it all happened quick for me. I don't know if I was maybe young and naive to like everything that was going out in the back, like in the background, because at that age I was just focused on playing football, so I don't really. It all happened like quite quick. Like I said, I didn't really understand what was going on, just because all my focus was put into playing for the club.
It's obviously like there's players and things like that are hearing that they're not getting paid and stuff like that, and all the stuff comes out. Massoni's locking folk out the boardroom from taking over the club. It's got to be mad as a player looking at seeing that sort of stuff in the press, and obviously you were on the inside of all that as well.
Oh, absolutely. Some of the stuff that went on was mad. I don't even know how they managed to get the club in that situation. But yeah, from the inside, when I started realizing it was happening, it was horrible to see, especially for the players and staff and everyone having to worry about like what's happening next, when we're getting paid. Obviously everyone's got families and stuff that they need like look after, bills to pay, and that worry wasn't nice to see for the players and stuff.
Yeah, obviously that saw us being demoted to the third division, as you mentioned. What was the kind of mood amongst the squad at that time? Was there, kind of fears for the kind of future, or did it really kind of affect you? Obviously you said about you were focused on playing football. Was that kind of the morale of most of the team, or was there a kind of a bigger effect on it?
There was a bigger effect. Like you said, we got put down to the third division. And the standard and quality of player we had in that team was never like that level. But I think at the time we got told that our wages would, when the club got took over, our wages would stay the same, and they'd back us to get back up the leagues. And thankful to them, that's exactly what happened.
And during the takeover of the club, did you not find yourself delivering pizzas to the new board at one point as well? How long did it take them to realise you were one of the players?
For many years, delivered pizzas with Domino's. Got to do what you got to do to make ends meet, but I suppose it's just character building in the end, isn't it? So.
Aye, mate, all the best folk have worked for Domino's at some point. I did it at uni as well, so big up to you. I'm one of the Domino's loyal, so.
So obviously Gary Bowen would take charge of the club at that season as well, and it also would be a big season for the likes of yourself as well as some other younger players. Do you think like inadvertently going down to the third division was one of the best things that happened for your career because it allowed you to get consistent first team football?
Yeah, definitely. I've said this before. As much as it was horrible for what happened to the club, and would never have wished it for the club, personally, I think it helped me, gave me a lot more game time at a young age, allowed me to play more football for the first team. And yeah, like you said, I feel like it helped my career.
And it wasn't just yourself that kind of broke in. There was Gary had brought in a lot of the younger players, like David Sinclair came in. Your brothers all made their debuts as well under Gary. But there was a good blend with experience. How much did that help with kind of, as I say, it's an unusual situation, the club being demoted. How much did it help having experienced heads like Robbie Winters, Danny Griffin about the place to help you young guys kind of flourish in the first team?
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, we had a good youth system, and the team that I came through with, there was a lot of players, and like you said, a lot of them got put into the first team at that point. But having those experienced heads around us obviously helped a lot, because being in the game, they kind of guide us through what we need to do to get the results and to, in the end, of winning the league.
Yeah, and just on to that third division title victory, how did it feel picking up your first medal? Was there a lot of relief at doing it first time and so comfortably?
Yeah, absolutely. Personally, for me, it was obviously massive winning my first trophy. As a footballer, that's what you want to do. You want to win leagues, win trophies, and to do it at a young age was amazing for me. But looking at the squad, I knew we had it in us to go and win that league. But to do it's a bonus, like you say, it's never gonna be easy to go and just win every single game, but we managed to pick up a lot of points that season and end up winning the league comfortably.
And it's a wee bit of a change for Livi that we were going into every game as the clear favourite. Is there a bit of a shift in mentality with that as well? Is that quite difficult initially when you go into that division?
Nah, not really, because at youth level, that's actually not even at youth level. Like, as a footballer, that's your main goal, is to be the best, and they went into that league knowing that we would be favourites, but had boys in there that were confident enough to go and do it on the park, and that's how we end up getting results. And
there was also a unique experience at the end of that season where yourself and your three brothers all featured against Albion Rovers. How does that rank in terms of the things that have happened for you at Livingston?
Yeah, definitely up there. Obviously played with them at youth level, but not many people get a chance to play with the brothers at first team level. But to do it with all three of them was an amazing achievement for myself and my brothers.
Do you know if it's a world record yet? Has it been confirmed that it's a record?
I've tried to Google it, to be honest, to try and find out, and I can't find it anywhere. But what's the chance of another set of four brothers playing?
I know it's got to be pretty slim. I'm giving you.
It's got to be close.
Obviously, the next season as well, we would secure promotion from the second division and go back to the first. But like, what was like the changing room back like then? Was it too different to as it is like kind of in the promotion charges of like recent years, or is there quite a big difference in the kind of time period?
The only real difference, to be honest, would be personnel. I think the way the changing room's been over the years is pretty much been the same. Like, there's always been that like unity, fight, and I think that's what's helped like our success.
And who were the big characters in the dressing room back then? I remember speaking to Bobby Barr, who's, he's a live wire himself, Bobby. But who were the other big characters in the dressing room at that period?
Barr, Craig Barr, Ian Russell, Paul Watson. But to be honest, that changing room at that time, there was a lot of big characters. But that was that changing room got on so well. I think that's what helped us a lot. And
the first season back up in the Championship, classic Livi fashion, was still pretty eventful. Gary Bowen was sacked, and John Collins and John Hughes came in, manager and director of football. How did the squad take that decision? Because I know the players were really fond of Gary when he was there. And how did you find working with Yogi?
Well, the decision came as a shock, to be honest, because he obviously brought us up through the leagues, and I didn't think we were actually doing that bad when he did get sacked. So it was a bit of a shock, obviously, that all the boys liked Gary Bowen as a manager and as a person, so it came as a bit of a shock. And then obviously working under Yogi and John Collins was brilliant for myself. I enjoyed it. For me personally, I feel like Yogi's been one of the best managers I've worked under.
You've certainly worked under a few at Livi as well, so.
What would have been one of the biggest differences going from Bowen to Hughes then? Was Bowen more of like a motivator, and then Hughes focused more on, the kind of game itself, or vice versa, or anything like that?
Like you said, they've just got like their different styles and how they like to play football, how they go about things. And for me, I felt like both styles worked for the team. Like I said, I didn't feel like Gary Bowen at the time deserved to get sacked. But then obviously John Hughes came in, and I felt like he'd done really well for us as well. So they are different, but I feel like the squads took to the differences quite well, and we managed to work under both of them really well.
Just touching on Gary Bowen again, I was really fond of him when he was a manager there, but he could be quite a scary guy. There must have been a few times in games where he lost the rag in the dressing room.
As if you're on the wrong side of him, he can be pretty scary. But nah, he's honestly a great guy, great manager. But like I said, just don't get on the wrong side of him.
Was there anybody in particular who was on the receiving end quite a lot of that, or did he shade it out quite a bit?
Nah, it would just depend on the game, what happened. Shed out pretty much.
There was I remember the story at Forth where he kicked the bin. That must have been pretty difficult because you knew how angry Gary was, but he kicked the bin and fell on his backside.
Honestly, like he's obviously raging, kicked the bin. But see, being in the change room when he's that angry, trying not to laugh, honestly, it's so hard.
That following season would prove to be quite a frustrating one for you as you suffered an ACL injury. How difficult is it, recovering from an injury like that?
Pretty difficult. When it happened, trying to get my head around being out for that length of time was quite hard. But to be honest, the support I had from my teammates and family was incredible. And going in, doing my rehab every single day with the boys helped me massively, and it just gave me that motivation to try and get back as fit and strong as possible.
Like an ACL is one of those ones where it's like a guarantee that's 9 months, pretty much.
Yeah, pretty much, exactly. I'd went down to Bradford to get a scan, and to be honest, an ACL is not what I expected to get back, but I got the scan results back, and the surgeon came up to me and was like, yeah, ACL, told me 9 months, and I don't know, I think I was in shock for the first 10 minutes trying to get my head around it. I was like, nah, surely not, but things happen, and you just need to try and get on with it and try and keep yourself motivated.
And after making your comeback, we were going to finish mid-table in the championship, but once again, classic Livi fashion, the following season was nothing but eventful. It was a points deduction, and we found ourselves kind of cut adrift at the bottom of the championship. What's the pressure like as a player when you're at the bottom fighting relegation?
To be honest, you could feel it a wee bit. I know we had. I felt like we had the players in the squad to get us out it, but still, when you see yourself sitting at the bottom, there is a bit of pressure, and if things don't go well in a game, you can feel it. So it was pretty difficult, but you need to try and be as positive as you can to try and get yourself out of that situation.
Just going back to the point about, obviously you mentioned about the changing room being kind of a big factor in the club's success back to that division. Was it also the same in, getting ourselves out of the relegation battle?
Yeah, definitely. I think that was a massive part played in it. I feel like if we didn't have that, probably could have ended up being a lot worse than what it was for us that year. I feel like the spirit sort of got us through what we needed to do that year to stay safe. I probably not. It wasn't the best situation, but like I said, we had the spirit to get us safe, and that was all that mattered that year.
You also had a distraction, which was the Challenge Cup. Like your debut, a 4-0 victory over Alloa, securing silverware. Again, where does that rank in your achievements at the club, winning a cup? Yeah,
definitely up there. Like you said, I'd won a league already, so to win a cup was brilliant. But it was hard at the time because obviously the situation we were in, we're still in a relegation fight. So to try, I don't feel like we could have enjoyed that cup as much as we probably should have. Just because we still had to focus on keeping ourselves safe that year.
That must have proved quite a big catalyst for the Great Escape, though, that cup win.
No, definitely. Getting that cup win, and then it sort of gave us an extra kick, an extra lift, to to go and push to keep us safe, because if we win that cup and get relegated, no one really remembers the cup. They just remember getting relegated. So it's not exactly what we wanted. So it gave us that little push to keep us safe that year.
The one game I always remember in that Great Escape was the away game at Cowdenbeath when we went a goal down, and I think that put us something like 8 points adrift at that point in the league, and then we turned it around. Jordan White scored late on to win that game. Like, when did the real belief start to come into the team that, oh, by the way, we can really turn this round?
To be honest, I feel like we had the belief right from when it happened, from when we got the points deduction. And I feel if we didn't have that right from the start, we would have had no chance.
Obviously, that season ended successfully. Your brother scored the penalty that kept us up in the championship, but you would call time on your spell at Livi and decided to make the move over to South Africa. How did that experience work for you, and what made the decision to go and make that move out there?
I feel like at the time, obviously I just played for Livi, and I just felt like at the time it was something I needed to do. I needed to go and have a new experience. I didn't know it was going to be South Africa that it would be. But yeah, that came around, and it's probably not the spell I would have wanted, but I enjoyed it at the same time.
What other offers were on the table for you? Was there anything, else in Scotland or even down south in England? Was there any interest from down there?
So I'd actually picked up an injury towards the end of that season. So I went back over to South Africa to do my rehab, because I've got family over there still. So I was going to see them do my rehab, and it was over there when I got a call from my agent saying a team over there is wanting to speak to you. So I'm not sure if there was any other offers or anything else. But when I spoke to my agent and they spoke to the team over in South Africa, we ended up making a deal for me to stay over.
And what key differences do you find, playing football in South Africa compared to, Scotland?
Yeah, it's different. Obviously, the weather's a major difference. You're playing in sometimes 30, 35 degrees heat, but you start getting used to it. And I think probably the tempo. There's a lot. It's really quick paced. But yeah, I wouldn't say there's anything majorly different apart from the tempo a little bit, maybe some of the players.
Would you rather play in the 30, 40 degree heat or a nice cold, freezing cold afternoon at like Central Park, Cowdenbeath or something like that?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll take the 30, 40 degree heat.
Obviously, it wouldn't be too long before you arrive back at Livi. You returned back in 2017. How did it all materialise for you to arrive back at the club?
So I came back from South Africa, and I'd actually went on trial in Sweden. When I went on trial to Sweden, it was the last day of the trial. The team were interested in keeping me, and I went up for a header during training, and I landed on my ankle, and I actually broke my ankle. So I had to come back. I came back home. Didn't have a club, anything, was injured. So I just got myself fit. And I ended up speaking to Davey and Hoppy once I'd got myself fit, and thankfully they let me come and train and ended up getting a deal.
It's obviously worked out really well for you coming back to the club. As you said, injury kind of limited your appearances that season, but the following season, I'm sure you've never spoke about it, Keagan, the championship promotion season, but it started off with a few records for yourself, including becoming the club's record appearance holder away down at TNS. Did you ever imagine when you made your debut in that Scottish Cup tie that you would go on to become the record appearance holder for the club?
Definitely not. When I made my debut, like how many appearances I made didn't really come across like my mind at the time. I was just wanting to play as much as I can. And it probably wasn't until it was close to the time that I was like, oh, I could end up taking over here. but yeah, great achievement, and yeah, one I'm proud of.
Yeah, and obviously that season would go on to be legendary for the fact that we got promoted via the playoffs. At what point of the season did you start to believe that, you know, promotion may actually be realistic for the club?
To be honest, we were sitting in and about the playoff spots, and each game we managed to stay in about the playoffs, and it wasn't like we're slowly creeping up the table to get up to second place, and our target was just to try and finish as high up in the playoffs to give ourselves our best chance. We knew it'd be tough to get promotion, but even finishing second in the table that year was a massive achievement for us.
And because of the way the playoffs are weighted in the championship as well, second plays such a massive part in giving the championship team a chance, doesn't it?
Absolutely, that's what I'm saying. Once we knew we were in the playoffs, our target was to try and make sure we finished second to give ourselves less games to play to try and actually get the promotion.
It's one of the kind of unusual ones as well. You say obviously we finished second place, but going into that tie against Dundee United, we probably would have still been deemed, you know, the underdogs, even though we had finished above them. Do you think that kind of moniker helped the team in a way? You know, we went into it, you know, we've got nothing to lose, and people are expecting Dundee to, especially in that first leg at Tannadice, to win. Do you think that was a benefit to the team's mentality?
Yeah, definitely. I feel like quite a lot recently we get put down as underdogs, but I feel like it helps us a lot because the players that we've had in the change rooms over the years, we've had a lot of very talented players, and we always just got put down as, oh, it's just Livingston. But I feel like for us mentally, it's helped us a lot, and it helped us a lot that year as well. And
we obviously had the playoff semi-final, but probably your biggest highlight in a Livingston jersey came in the playoff final. Now, you scored 3 goals against Partick Thistle that season, right? So you scored in the League Cup, you scored in the first leg, and then you scored in the second leg. What is it you hate about Partick Thistle?
Honestly, I don't even know how it ended up being just against Partick that year. We were sitting at Tony Max for pre-match, going into the first leg of the playoff final, and I can't even remember who it was, but one of the boys was like, "Oh, you're just saving your goals for Partick," and obviously just making a wee joke of it. But funny enough, that's what it turned out to be, yeah.
It worked out pretty well. It worked out pretty well in the end.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, going back to that day at Firhill, can you just sum up your memories of that goal and just the day overall?
To be honest, when I look back now and realise how quick into the second half I was, I actually didn't at the time feel like it was only like 30 seconds in. I thought we were at least 10 minutes into that second half. But yeah, I just remember the ball getting flicked on and it ended up at Sean Burns' feet. I can just remember shouting on the ball at the edge of the box, and next minute I'm running to the fans celebrating.
That must have been quite amazing seeing 2,000 travelling Livingston fans at a game, considering obviously you've played here most of your career. That must have been quite surreal as well.
No, definitely. I seen that whole stand packed with Livy fans was amazing. I feel like it gave the boys a little boost as well to see the amount of support that we had for that final.
And when Stevie Lawless and Chris Erskine joined the club, how often did it get mentioned to them about the playoffs? I remember Steve telling me on the podcast that he actually thought you didn't like him when he first signed.
I remember he came up to me. He's like, "Listen, I have to admit, son." He's like, when I first came here, he's like, "I thought I was going to hate you." But, both of them great guys, honestly, and I felt like they've done well for us as well.
I remember Steve when he was one of the first folk we interviewed on the podcast, and it was everyone was popping out of different doors at the stadium just going, "I remember asking him about the playoffs. Remember asking him about the playoffs."
He still gets a wee message every so often with a picture of the playoffs. I still speak to him, but every so often I'll drop a wee message about it, and he just tells me to fuck off.
I take it the 20th of May is you've got an alert on your phone or something like that to just send them a video of the goal.
There's something random will come up on Twitter, I swear, and then it's something to do with that playoff, and I'll just forward it on to him. And I'm surprised he's not blocked me yet.
Obviously, that season being back in the Premiership for the club, you'd set another couple of records. You were the first player to play and score in all 4 divisions for the club. How does that free kick at Fir Park rank amongst your kind of achievements at the club?
Apart from winning trophies, I'd say it's up there, to be honest. For a football player, your biggest goal is to play at the highest level as possible, but then to go and score a goal at that level, yeah, it was a massive thing for myself.
You've scored a few special goals in your time at Livi. Is there any that really stick out as your favourite? I know the playoff ones are quite obvious, but is there any other ones that stick out for the quality of the goal?
My debut goal, to be honest, and the Ford Hill one.
Obviously, you've mentioned how you've played in all like the different leagues there. Did you really notice like the massive step up going into the Premiership? And if so, what players who you played against really stood out in terms of quality?
I feel like it was a step. I don't think it was as big a step as what I thought it was going to be, to be honest. I felt like we'd done well that year, but when you're talking about quality, you know there's a lot of players in the Celtic and Rangers team that have a lot of quality, and that's where our toughest games have been. Are
you not weighed down though by Tom Rogic being in your back pocket for a few of the man marking jobs you've done on him?
To be honest, he's one of the players I'd say his ability is ridiculous. I feel like he's an amazing player. But then to have the game that I did against him and Celtic that day, it's one I'll remember.
And after sealing that 9th place finish, we obviously followed that up 5th place the following season. You've experienced pretty much everything you can experience at a football club in your time there. Did you ever imagine that you would be sitting at Livingston, comfortably sitting in the top 6?
I'm going to say no. When we were in the Championship, I felt like, I don't know, I felt like it was a hard league to get out of, and it was hard to envision just getting out of that league and then being in the Premiership. But once we got into the Premiership, I had no doubt that we could keep our own and keep surviving in the Premiership.
That season as well, you would also have you'd be the first Livi player to have a testimonial. Could you be honest with us though, was the Beckham-like effort from halfway scripted?
No, it wasn't. I seen them put Cole in goals, and I actually said it to one of the other boys: if you get the ball, shoot. But as soon as I got at the halfway line, I was like, I'm gonna have to have a shot here.
Was it also arranged that you were to swap at halftime, or did you see that Cheb and Colin and so on had come on for the Livi team that you thought, nah, fuck this, I'm swapping teams at halftime?
I wish I could say it was the second bit, but nah, it was for me to swap over. It was arranged.
Tell you the other thing I found funny. I remember speaking to your brother Sheldon. Sheldon got a sub appearance at Livi and made a Legends team. Unbelievable effort that.
I don't know how he got in there. I think he's bribed someone.
But obviously this season for you, Keegan's been incredibly frustrating. Been out injured most of the season. You've had a few longer term injuries. How's this one compared, obviously, with the situation that we're in with COVID?
This one's been the most challenging, to be honest. Obviously with COVID, the restrictions, my rehab's not been in amongst the boys, so I've not really had that same feeling that I got from when I had my ACL, when I could do my rehab and like beside the boys, and they give you that extra lift. Don't get me wrong, they've been supportive with me. Like they message me, like ask how I'm getting on. I feel with this injury as well, though, it's been a bit harder than what the ACL is, because with an ACL, like you said, you've got that time frame, you're like 9 months. But with this, I've not really had that, so I've not really known the end date, if you know what I mean.
And do you have a kind of date in your mind where you're hoping to get back involved?
Right now, I'm going to say this season's finished for me. My target's just pre-season now, and then come back as strong as possible for next season.
You've also managed to keep yourself busy off the park, though, whilst you've been out starting up your own cake business. How did this all come about, and can we expect you to be getting a Hollywood handshake anytime soon?
Like you said, we were in lockdown at the time, and it was my partner's birthday, so I thought, we've got nothing else to do, can't really celebrate it. And I've always been into like cooking, baking, so I was like, I'll attempt to make a cake. And it turned out all right, so I was like, I showed a few of my pals, and then it was Sean Byrne. He was like, you should just try and do something for like Christmas, a wee Christmas box or something. So I thought, right, I'll see how it goes, and if it does well, I'll keep doing it. And over Christmas, it turned out quite well, so I thought I'll keep going, see how it does. So, but no, I'll absolutely not be going on any shows to
Do you want to know? I'm sure everyone's developed one of these hobbies during lockdown as well, but you're making a bit of money out of it, so no bad.
I've not really got a choice now. My wee one every week, she's like, cake.
You'll be trying to introduce her to the football diet. Never like, no, don't need cake. But Keagan, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the podcast today. Obviously, you're a legend at the football club, so it's obviously fantastic to have you on. And it goes without saying, we hope to see you back on the park sooner rather than later, pulling on the amber and black jersey again.
Thanks very much, and thanks for having me. I've enjoyed it.
Lastly, this week, we're going to look ahead to our final game of the season and potential fifth place decider as the Lions travel to Perth to take on St Johnstone. Angus, we'll start with you on this one. How do you see this one going?
Terribly, to be honest.
Wow.
Do you know what I know? It's so funny, Angus, how your attitude's changed. You joined us during our 14-game unbeaten run, and it was nothing but positivity from you when you first started on the podcast. And it had almost carried on until a certain point where you've just gone, this season's done, man.
To be fair, though, on next Saturday, we are playing the current best team in the world, because St Johnstone, no matter what, just seem to do it. They just seem to do the business, and fair play to them. They've put in the effort, and they're just so well set up. But yeah, I just can't see us getting anything from them, because they are on such a hot streak. They are essentially doing what we did in that 14-game unbeaten run, and arguably maybe even better with the kind of performances that they've kind of shown, and the fact that they've snatched points from Rangers, put them out of the cup, and then also made the cup final as well. So yeah, I think all kind of the cards are pointing towards St Johnstone just continuing this on for the rest of the season, for the final 3 games that they've got. And honestly, if we can get anything from this, I'll be pleased, but I really don't see it happening, because yeah, we've really struggled in recent kind of months to, put the sort of any teams to really capitalise on anything. And St Johnstone have been very much the opposite. They're, everything that we kind of want our side to be, hard-working. They punish anything going forward, and they're very solid at the back. And yeah, I can't say I'm looking forward to this. As you have said, these are more confident for the Rangers game than you are for this one. Yeah.
St Johnstone, right? I obviously watched them at the weekend. Fantastic. They're as Angus says. They sort of, it's a similar style to what we were probably first season in the top flight. They're in your face, and they're just brilliant at the back, and they play that 3-5-2 sort of system. I think it's 3 games that they've lost in 2021, which is just a joke, to be honest. Obviously, Callum Davidson, for me, he's got to be manager of the year. He's done a terrific job, especially given the fact it's his first season as well, by the way. But they could go on and win a cup double. But in terms of the league, I know there's this sort of the narrative that St Johnstone have been amazing. Obviously, they have in the cups. Don't get me wrong, but we've got the same amount of points as them. And there's all this sort of doom and gloom around us. You know, we've had it's now a terrible season type thing. Like, we're still in the top 6. I mean, I know in terms of form, there's absolutely zero contest. St Johnstone, since the turn of the year, pretty much, probably actually since they played us and they ended our unbeaten run back in February, I think that was. You know, they've been the form team in the division. Probably win the league next year. But nah, we've got the same amount of points as them. We've beaten them there earlier this season, beaten them at McDermott Park. Obviously, you're hoping that Celtic, as I say, do us a favour. You know, our result doesn't matter if St Johnstone go there and they take something. You know, we'll be struggling. I think we'll almost have to go there and win. As things stand at the minute, obviously we don't know the results from Wednesday. We'll need to go there and win because they're ahead of us on goal difference. We can't overtake them with a point or anything. But you know, if they drop points, say they lose, we get a point. You know, it's in our hands again. We're on level points with them at the moment. I'm not a big fan of all the negative. Like, I'm not a big fan of all the negativity. We're on the same amount of points as them. I don't know what you've got to add to that, because
I kind of touched on it last week, Bruni, and that I think it's the pattern of how the season's gone. Yeah. You know, because we had a bit of a slow start, but in reality, it was the exact same as last season. I think we were the same points after the same number of games, so it wasn't as disaster as folk were making out. And then, you know, that kind of middle third of the season, we had that incredible unbeaten run, and then obviously there's the disappointment losing that unbeaten run, but then there was also a cup final defeat in amongst it as well. And I think it's the pattern of how the season's gone which has got fans a bit down almost, when in reality, if you asked any fan at the start of the season with a bit of common sense, you're going to get to a cup final, you're going to finish in the top 6, I think any Livingston fan would rightfully bite your hand off for that. Yeah. But I think it's the pattern of how the season's gone. While St Johnstone had quite a slow first 3-4 months to the season, and kind of since December, January time, they've just been unstoppable just about. As you say, they've only lost 3 games, and I think that's what Rangers in the league, Aberdeen in the league, and I can't remember who else. It was possibly Celtic. So, you know, those are the 3 games that they've lost. But as you say, that includes winning a cup. It includes getting to a Scottish Cup final, includes getting into the top 6 on the last game before the split. So it's all these little things, and it's just building that momentum. And I think it's just the way how seasons pan out over the cross that I think is given that impression that we've had a poorer season, when in reality, as you say, we're sitting on the same points as St Johnstone. We've had, other than them obviously beating us in the cup final, we're having as good a season as them just about in domestic league form. So it's not all doom and gloom, but as I say, it's momentum, isn't it? And St Johnstone have that in abundance right now, which is what doesn't fill me with an awful lot of confidence going there on the final day. You've also got the flip side, which is, you know, they do have a Scottish Cup final the following week. The players maybe, have they got that on their mind going into the game? Or are they trying to play for a place in that cup final? You know, you don't know what sort of mindset players will have, maybe pulling out of tackles a little bit because they don't want to miss that game, you know, things like that as well. So, you know, it's an interesting one because St Johnstone still have that game coming up, which is huge and potential, you know, making history for their football club. So I think it's quite an intriguing game. You know, we've got one objective, which is trying to finish above them and giving ourselves a potential opportunity of European football, depending on what happens in the cup final. So it's a difficult one to predict because there's, I think with St Johnstone, there'll be more on their minds than just trying to finish above us. I think, you know, it's difficult for any manager to take players' mind off a cup final that's the following week. I'm sure Davey would have had the difficulty with that with ourselves with the League Cup final earlier in the season. So, but I think, look, we've beaten them twice this season. We have beaten them. It's not like they're unbeatable. And that's what I think on our day, we're more than capable of beating St Johnstone. You know, as good as they have been this second half of the season, I think we're still capable of going there and winning. We've done it already this season. We were excellent in the game up at McDermott Park. So I'm not confident based on form, but I still think we've got more than enough to go and get a result.
Just coming back in on that, obviously, you know, as I mentioned, you know, I'm a big fan of St Johnstone as much as obviously I'm a massive Livingston fan, but you know, the way that they've played this season's been remarkable. You're sort of jealous in a way because you know you'd love that to be us, but you know, take nothing away from them. I'm not going into the game going, you know, we're better than them. We're this, we're that. But it will be a really, really tough game. But as you say, it's just the fact that it annoys me because, I mean, I spoke to Davey this week for the programme. By the programme, by the way. It's an absolute bargain. A lot of effort was done. But anyway, just for to plug that. But, you know, Davey sort of summed up the season as, he put it into thirds. So he said that the first third of the season was frustration. You know, the really poor start. Obviously, Gary Holt resigning, which is how nobody wanted it to end. He's been one of the best managers we've had, probably in the club's history, if we're being honest. The second third is remarkable. He talked about pride in that. That second third, you know, the 14-game unbeaten run, which is just that probably won't be done again. In the top flight, certainly for Livingston. And then the final third, it's almost, he spoke about it as it's going out in a whimper a little bit. You know, like the players and Davey and the staff, I think they're all as frustrated as us as fans. You know, it's a weird one. We've lost that game, and since it's just been a little slump, and I don't know what it is. People are saying we've taken the foot off the gas now. We're in the top 6, or we're not trying anymore. But I don't think that's the case. It's just I can't put my finger on it, to be honest. But when you look at that, you could say 2/3 have been disappointing, and it's only that sort of 14-game run that's got us into the top 6, whatever. But we're still in the top 6. Like Livingston, I genuinely think, like, I don't know figures, I don't know whatever, but I genuinely think we have from what I believe, we have the worst budget in the league. We have the lowest budget in the league. Hamilton have got a little bit more money than us. We have the worst budget in the league, and we're in the top 6 again for the second season in a row. And there's all this talk, yes, St Johnstone have had a fantastic season, of course they have. But St Mirren as well is the one that annoys me. St Mirren have had this unbelievable season. What a job Jim Goodwin's doing. And yeah, he's done a good job. But we're ahead of St Mirren in the league. We beat St Mirren in the cup semi-final, and it's all this talk about, oh, Jim Goodwin's done brilliant. They've got a massive budget in comparison to us. So they should be up there. And I just think that it's sort of again, it's a cliche, but it's our success is coming back to bite us in a way. You know, it's almost become expected, the fact we got top 6 last season. Obviously the season was curtailed. Who knows what would have happened? Maybe we'd have had a slump last season. Who knows? Maybe we wouldn't have finished in the top 6 with it. I think it was 3 games to go. We had teams breathing down our neck. Maybe we wouldn't have, but I just think we are the victim of our own success, and people are going to expect Livingston next season, because we've done it the last 2 seasons, to be in the top 6. And for me, it's just a remarkable achievement. Obviously, I'm biased because I'm a Livingston fan, but it is, with the budget, you know, the what's going on in the world at the minute as well. It is a remarkable season for us, and yeah, I'm as disappointed as everyone, but I just think a wee bit of perspective's needed, if I'm being honest. But
if you take any team though, we've won 3 games since February, and I think if you look at any team in the world, then I think you could be like, yeah, fair enough, being unhappy with that. I don't think that's, you know, far out of the realm. One of those wins was an extra time game against Raith in the Cup, which, you know, ultimately went nowhere. So we've only won 2 league games in 3 months. With that, I think we've only drawn twice as well. So you're talking about 9 games where, you know, we've not won. I don't think that form necessarily. I get what you everything you guys have said about, you know, the budget, the conditions, everything like that. It's all spot on. And you're absolutely correct with the success that we've had is what's coming back to haunt us. And I think that is what massively contributes to it, is because we probably know that, we are capable of doing that wee bit extra more. And that is why, it is so frustrating in these kind of moments where, we're on such quite a dismal run. I think we've got the worst form in the league in the last 10 games out of all the teams. I know that'll be kind of influenced now by the games that are playing in the top 6. But at the same time, I don't think you can really have too much of a gripe with kind of fans kind of feeling a bit disappointed in that kind of way, because I think that is just kind of natural. Going on like the 14-game unbeaten streak, that is the sole reason as to why we have finished in the top 6. There's no kind of beating around the bush for that, and I don't know if it's fans maybe just kind of being worried for next season that this is kind of coming through, because if it wasn't for that unbeaten run, I know it did happen. You can't just erase it. We probably would be possibly in a relegation battle, in all honesty. And is that going to continue on for next season? And that's why I think some fans will be, a wee bit kind of more doom and gloom about it. They want to see, things getting fixed for kind of next season. And at the time, it doesn't seem as if an awful lot is kind of going our way. I don't necessarily say that all the performances have been that bad, but at the same time, there is improvements that do need to be made if we are going to, stay in this league next season, in all honesty. I don't know if that's me being too ultra negative, but I mean, you look at the first part of the season and you look at the last part of the season, are we playing like a top 6 side? No. Are we going to go on that 14-game unbeaten run again? No. So, yeah, it is a very interesting one, because you will look back at this season where we've got to, it wasn't the quarter-final of Scottish Cup. We got to the final of this League Cup and we finished in the top 6. Yeah, that is a great season, and there is going to be so many things that we're, looking back on and being like, oh, that was great. Oh, mind that last minute winner against Kilmarnock and whatever. There is going to be so many things that we do take on to it. I think it has just kind of got to that point where, you're thinking about next season and starting to worry a wee bit, in all honesty, I don't know if that's just myself and many other fans, but I feel like that's kind of maybe the issue that is coming about.
Tell you what, some analysis we're doing about the St Johnstone game here. Fuck me.
I'm not.
Nah, just kind of final word on that. It's the whole pictures on a scorecard theory, isn't it? As I said, you talk about what we will achieve this season. If you asked anyone at the start of the season, you'd say, yeah, but it's how the pattern of the season's gone. That's creating frustration more than anything. To kind of get back onto the game, Bruno, you mentioned it about 4 hours ago when we started doing our preview for the St Johnstone game.
I just don't want to talk about St Johnstone. They just give me the fear, mate. I was just stalling because I don't have action.
As you say, they've been. I think I saw a stat somewhere that they've used the least players in the league this season. They've been very consistent with their starting 11. As you said, player 3 at the back. Gordon McCart. I've said the 2 games that we got results against St Johnstone, and even the game we lost in the league, we started getting back into the game where we matched them up, and we went to 3. Do you think that's something that Davey might look at? Obviously, he tried something different in the cup final, which we'll not go into too much detail about. I'm sure we have already. But do you see him maybe looking along those lines, maybe trying to match St Johnstone up across the park?
I think for the Rangers game, I think you try and sort of match them. You try and not exploit their weaknesses. I don't think they've got many weaknesses, but you try and stop their strengths, is what I'm trying to get at. For the game against St Johnstone, again, you've spoken about it with what Davey does and things like that. You're saying that we need to focus on us, and I think for that final game, if, again, depending on result, we could be ahead of them, we could still be behind them, we need to go out and play our game. I don't think, as good as St Johnstone are, I think that unlike the cup final, we tried to put Marv out to stop Sean Rooney, and in hindsight, not the best idea, but before the game, I was sort of like, you can maybe see what the thinking is behind it. We're trying to stop their strengths. But we've done it against several teams this season, and it's almost too tactical, if you know what I mean. I think we should, for that St Johnstone game, just go out and play our game. But you play a 4-2-3-1 or whatever, you put your best players on the park, and they should be worried about us, in my opinion. If we play we've seen it in that 14-game unbeaten run. If we can play to our best, we're a match for most teams in this league, and we'll cause teams problems. But it is very hard to pinpoint, what we're going to play. Because you mentioned it there, Ewan. We found a lot of, it was a good effect that we had on the game when I think it was Kieran Brown maybe came on or came off. We went to that 3 at the back at McDermott.
Yeah, I think it was Josh and Pitts kind of came in behind Robbo and almost played as 2 10s, and it really changed the game. I think we were struggling to get a proper foothold, and almost within about 5-10 minutes we went and scored. I know it was a set piece, but the second goal comes from Josh being in that kind of hole in behind Robbo for that goal. So, and I remember the game earlier in the season, yes, we were 2-0 up, but we were really struggling to get a foothold in the game, and I think we went to a back 3, and I think we started to open them up a little bit more. That's the only thing I'm saying. If you look at the games that we've been successful against them, and even look at the 2-1 game and that ended our run, we changed it at half time. Yeah, they scored from a set piece about a minute into the second half, but I think as the half wore on, we gradually started growing more into it and getting more of a foothold in the game again, and we got one back and could have nabbed an equaliser in that game. So I think we've been at our most effective against them when we've gone and matched them up and across the park. That's just my view on it when we've played them this season.
I think when we're going into this game as well, we should be looking not to really to stop Rooney and Eiler Buffer-Tanzer, but to exploit the space that's left by them whenever they've bombed forward. Yesterday in the game against in their semi-final against St Mirren had glorious opportunities that all came from wide areas because the likes of Durmus or the boy Dennis they drifted out wide because there was so much space created out there, and in all honesty they should have scored probably at least twice from it. So I think that would be something that Davy should be looking to exploit. Whether that is if you start then with the likes of Mullen or Forrest up front, or even Jet, to be honest, because they will naturally go out into that kind of space to try and exploit it whenever one of those fullbacks is borne forward, and we can maybe get some joy from there. Because especially if you've got somebody who's a wee bit nippier like Forrest or Mullen, the likes of McCart and Gordon, I don't think they're really going to want to be drifted out to near the touchline to go one-on-one with them. I don't think that's their game. No defender really wants a winger like that really running at them either. It's kind of that unnatural territory for them, and then obviously that then moves one kind of centre half out of the box as well. So it'll be interesting to see how we line up. Again, I have to reiterate, I don't want to see Craig Sibbald or Pittman on the wing. I want to see actual forward players in those kind of areas to exploit that. But I'm trying to think of how would we be able to do that with the 5 at the back? Would we just go back to the kind of way that you said, Ewan, about having them as not really attacking midfielders, we're not really strikers either, just kind of in that wee hole, kind of like what David Witherspoon does for them?
That was kind of the thought I had. You have Jet and Pitts maybe in behind, even like we did up at Aberdeen with the likes of Alan Forrest playing up top through the middle. A bit similar to Robbo, who's going to run in behind and things like that quite a lot and try and open up a few spaces, almost playing like a false 9 and just roaming about the pitch as a potential option. And then, as I say, Jet kind of playing just off the right hand side where I think he's been at his most effective in recent games. We'll move on to predictions then. So, final game of the season, are we going to finish on a high, or are we going to be settling for 6th place?
We will be going into 6th place because I'm predicting St Johnstone to win 2-0, sadly.
Wow.
It's always good to have someone that's just full of positivity on a Monday. Bruni, what are you expecting, mate?
So after we've ended Rangers' invincible run, and Celtic have beaten St Johnstone 5-0, we'll go 5-0 at Celtic Park, hopefully. I think either way, it's difficult to predict because we don't know the results. We don't know what teams will be playing for, as I've touched on before. They could be ahead, we could be ahead. I just can't see anything other than a draw. So I'm going to go 1 each.
Yeah, Bruni, I'm thinking along the lines of 1 each as well. I think I think St Johnstone will have a mind on the cup final. Personally, I think it's difficult, for players at a club like St Johnstone with the opportunity to win a cup double. I think it's going to be incredibly difficult for them to keep the focus on a game against Livingston when they go to visit Hampden the following week to potentially, as I say, create history, a once in a lifetime thing for the football club. So I just think their mind might be elsewhere and we can maybe take advantage, but I'm going to go one each as well, and hopefully that's enough to see us into 5th place with the potential opportunity of European football next year.
That's it for this week's episode of Talk Livi. Thanks again to every single one of you for tuning in week and week out. If you can, we'd love to hear your feedback. Either leave us a review on iTunes or simply message us on Twitter, Facebook or Instagram.
As Angus said, we're on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. Just search Talk Livi to find us on there. You'll find all the links to our weekly episodes up there as well. You can also find all of our episodes, including this one, on all good podcast streaming sites, the likes of iTunes and Spotify. We're also on YouTube as well, so don't forget to subscribe to the channel over there. If none of those options suit you though, all you have to do is head to our website, talklivipodcast.libsyn.com. You'll find every single episode that we've done over the last few years over on there as well.
That's it for this week. First of all, thank you to Keaghan Jacobs for joining us on the podcast. Hopefully we'll see you back on the park very soon. Once again, thank you all for listening to the podcast each week. It's much appreciated. For now, from all of us here at the official Talk Livi podcast, we hope you have a great week.
Livingston, a love will never die. West Lothian is our battle cry. This is the place from which we hail. Livingston, oh Livingston, it's up to Ambervale. Livingston, 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 oh Livingston, oh Livingston, we love it when you score. Livingston, oh Livingston, the Ambervale Lions roar. Livingston, oh Livingston, we realize our vision. Livingston, oh Livingston, into the